I've been in Columbia, how many years now? Since 2011.
Now stands our profile,
Okay.
and he scoots a little bit closer to.
Scooch a little closer. Sorry, I was moving there.
Okay, and so do you want one of us to stand ahead of the other, or?
No, I got her on 6, so it's good where she's talking to you.
Okay.
Okay, so how do you want me to, am I looking at
You
camera?
won't, you'll just talk to me, but they're
Okay.
trying to get it so that it's not too much of a profile.
I gotcha.
You see what
Okay,
I mean?
yeah.
So they're trying
okay.
to get the camera.
Okay.
I gotcha.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, but anyway, this is home for sure. Like
Yeah.
I love Greenville, and every time I come back, I feel like there's something new. I mean, it's like this part of downtown is just
It's
unbelievable.
crazy. Yeah, well, and then everything keeps changing with new restaurants and new everything.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been next door to that group therapy thing with the
No.
indoor? It's
What is
indoor,
that?
It's indoor putt-putt, but every hole is like movie themed.
Oh my gosh.
They also have some other elements like axe
Okay.
throwing and stuff like that. But
Okay.
but the coolest part, and they have like Ghostbusters and like the giant marshmallow man, and I mean it's
That's
just
amazing.
it's really cool. It
That's
is.
awesome.
But they do basically they use it to do also corporate team building stuff.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like create experiences for
Yep.
corporations, because that honestly I think is how they're going to make it versus
Yes.
general public. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's kind of expensive. But,
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're trying to build up curriculum to do that kind of thing.
Well,
which
that's
is neat.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, how long have you been in Greenville?
I've been in the upstate for 33 years.
Okay.
on the
Okay.
area.
This is home now. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I'm from New York originally.
Okay.
But started my career in Minnesota for 3 years. So.
Wow.
then I
And we're
came
glad
here.
to get out of the snowdrift. So you know
Oh,
what
yeah.
it's like to live in the Midwest.
Oh yes,
Uh-huh.
it's a whole another world.
Uh-huh.
Well, it cracked me up because they were so good at handling like ridiculous amounts of snow there, and then we get an inch here, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're all falling
know.
apart.
I know.
It was
I
funny.
know. It
but
is
but
funny.
I also think it is scarier here because most people don't know how to drive in the snow. So it's
yes.
What
Well,
I
and
mean?
what's so scary about here too is that it's like the temperature fluctuates so that it melts and it becomes ice overnight, and that actually is dangerous. Like nobody can drive in ice, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's terrible. But yeah, because I learned how to drive in snow. I learned how to drive in Iowa, and so yeah, coming down here and you're like, it's barely. Okay.
We're good. Okay, so we'll get going. Are we good? Are we rolling? Making sure we're rolling. And we're starting here. This is the 2-shot. Okay. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. And now we're joined by the Superintendent of Education in South Carolina, who is entering her first year in her job, Ellen Weaver, the newly elected superintendent. Congratulations, first of all,
Thank
and
you.
welcome to your first school year in South Carolina.
Well, it's an exciting school year in South Carolina. The future of education in our state is incredibly bright. I already got to see some bright-eyed and bushy-tailed students at Palmetto High School in Williamston today on their first day of school, and there's nothing like that first day back kind of energy.
And so let's talk a little bit about your hopes for the state of education across the state of South Carolina. What do you, number one priority, want to accomplish this school year?
My number one priority is going to be focus on the fundamentals. And for me, that's literacy and math. We have got to ensure that our students are caught up after the damage that was done for so many during COVID. And we also have to ensure that our teachers have the foundation in how to teach reading that aligns with what we now know to be the brain science of reading. And so this is a huge priority for me, something that the General Assembly has partnered with us on, and something I'm very excited to continue to build and promote throughout this next school year.
And dig into that, because I mean, is that something that is happening this year, or is this something you're working on to roll out in future years?
So this is something that is already happening. We have about 5,000 teachers in South Carolina who have already started this training. It's called Letters. And so they are already mid-journey in this Letters training. And what it does is it gives them the tools to understand the reading difficulties that they are seeing in their students, and then truly individualize instruction to meet those students where they are. And so we need every K-3 teacher in South Carolina to have this training, because this is how we are going to build the future of education on a solid foundation for the long run.
And so in the big picture, what percentage of the teachers have these skills, and how many more do we have yet to train?
Well, I would say we still have probably 10 to 15,000 teachers that need to go through this training, and we have a cohort of 10,000 who will be starting either in the fall or winter of this next school year. So we're going to continue to build on the momentum that we're seeing. I've been in schools where this training is already being implemented, and to hear teachers in their own voices talking about the difference that it is making for them, the sense of empowerment that they feel when they can meet their students where they are and give them the instruction that they need. It's magic, it really is. And I'd encourage people to visit our Facebook page for the Department of Education. Some of those videos are posted there. I can promise you, you'll need a box of Kleenex when you hear these teachers talk.
Well, let's talk a little bit about teachers, because keeping them and retaining them is one of the biggest challenges really facing districts all over the country, but particularly in South Carolina, it's been a historic issue. I talked to local superintendents earlier in the week, and they were all talking about that being one of their biggest challenges. What can we do here in South Carolina most immediately to change the nature of this?
Well, you know, there are really two things that I hear from teachers. Obviously, we have to continue to professionalize teacher pay and treat them like the experts that they are. And so this year, we raised our minimum teacher salary in South Carolina from $40,000 to $42,500. And the governor and General Assembly and I have all committed that we are going to push to $50,000 in the next 3 years. And so we're going to do
$50,000.
Yeah, for our minimum starting salary. Because our teachers have to be paid a living wage. So that's a huge priority. But when I talk to teachers, it's not just about the money. So many of them are concerned about discipline issues in the classroom as a result of the mental health needs of their students, lost learning during COVID. And so we really need to be building up our principals who are helping to create the culture in that school, because when the principal has their teachers back, the teacher can teach. And so those discipline issues are something that we're going to have some hard but transparent conversations about. How do we support our teachers? How do we support our students and their mental health needs? At the department, we're talking about an idea that I call CARE, Character and Resilience Education. And that's helping our students learn those foundational civic skills and virtues, soft skills, if you will, that we know that students have to be successful in life. Commitment, courage, integrity, and so many others. These are the values that I feel like unite us as a community, unite us as a state and nation. And these are the skills that our students have to face the challenges of life successfully. And so there are a number of curriculums that we are looking at that can really help, I think, support our teachers and our students in this need. So there's a lot else I could talk about. We just had a teacher recruitment and retention task force that came out with many different ideas for what we need to do. They talk about that principal leadership piece. Our principals need to support our teachers. So building that leadership capacity. They talk a lot about the need to really rethink how we do educator preparation. So many of the students that we're losing, teachers that we're losing is in that first 5-year period. And I talk to these teachers who are just feeling so overwhelmed, and like they got a lot of book learning in their college prep, but maybe not enough hands-on time in the classroom in their student teaching experience. And so states like Tennessee are looking at maybe more apprenticeship-based models that are allowing new teachers to have more time in the classroom under a mentor teacher. And when I talk to teachers, they never tell me, oh, hey, it was that third-year class in college that made me a great teacher. They always talk about another teacher who coached them or a principal who came alongside and helped develop them. So it's really that person-to-person interaction. And so I think we need to really partner with our colleges and universities to rethink how we train the teachers of the future.
Talk a little bit too about having advocates in each school. I read something about you wanting to create some kind of a position where parents and community members could go in and get results and make sure that things are happening the way they hope they would.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I want to do at the state education agency, because I feel like we can do it in a way that creates scale statewide, because what I hear from so many districts is that they just have so much on their plate. They are exhausted. They can't handle one more thing. And so I'm always trying to think, how can we as a state agency serve them and provide the resources that maybe they don't have the time to develop themselves. And I think one of those is issuing a call to action to our business communities, our faith communities, our nonprofit communities, to really step up, to mentor, to tutor, to volunteer in schools, to become a substitute teacher. There are so many pathways that you can engage, but we have to create a platform where people can go and know how to get involved, and then districts can go to know that they have a pool of talent and resources that they can draw from. So that is something that is still very much in the conceptual and developmental phase, but I truly believe that this is one of the most important ways in how we turn around education, because these are our schools, and since they're our schools, they're our responsibility.
Talk a little bit too about, obviously you were elected, 56% of the vote, but there were people who did not support you or wished another candidate had won. How do you plan to serve those who maybe saw things differently than you do?
That's a wonderful question, and something that I have spent a lot of time on my first 6 months in office is just going around and letting people get to know me. I find that so often when conversations are reduced to sound bites as they are in a campaign, you can't really get a sense of someone's heart, of who they actually are. And so I've been traveling around the state talking to superintendents, meeting with principals, talking with school board members, and most importantly, listening to teachers and students. And those conversations have been so constructive and so productive. And in a wonderful country like ours, we're a pluralistic society. We don't all have to agree on everything. That's okay, but we can be respectful in how we disagree, and we can find the things that unite us. And I think public education is a shared value that unites all of us.
On the state level, what can be done, or what do you think still needs to be done to improve the school security scene across South Carolina?
It's a great question. Again, I was in a high school this morning and was very happy to see that they had their SRO there front and center, which, as you may know, is a school resource officer. Something that we at the state level have been prioritizing in the budget over the last 3 or 4 years. And so I believe we are very close to having an SRO in almost every school. I know you all had a tragedy here in Greenville.
That's right.
And thank goodness for that SRO who was there, who stopped that tragedy from becoming even worse than it already was. So that's one really concrete thing that we are doing and can continue to do. But we have set up an Office of Safe Schools at the department. And for me, the motto is continuous quality improvement. Looking at what other states are doing, looking at what's working well here at schools in South Carolina, and most importantly, interfacing with our amazing law enforcement community. As we've had these swatting incidences in the last school year, the thing that stood out to me most from that was the incredible response time of our law enforcement. I mean, within minutes, they were at schools. And so I think continuing to foster that sense of collaboration between our education and law enforcement communities is absolutely critical, and something that we're going to really prioritize at the department.
And in South Carolina, we do have so much have and have not with the schools, with the children and their backgrounds. What do we do to address the disparities in our education system?
So that's why I am so excited about this literacy initiative, because I truly believe literacy and reading is the great equalizer. If you can read, you can do anything. I have talked to so many children who have grown up in poverty, and because of education, that fundamental skill, they have been able to change their story and their family's story for future generations. And so I truly believe that ensuring that every child in South Carolina is able to read is the most fundamental thing we could do to level equality of opportunity and access across our state.
I know you had a background as a CEO of a nonprofit. You were working in and around education and many other issues. Molly Spearman, who ultimately endorsed you in that final round of the election, talked about your business acumen as being important in South Carolina schools, because it is $1 billion plus?
$8 billion flow through the State Department.
Yeah, so there's a lot of money to handle, manage, and prioritize.
Yes.
What do you think your background brings to this job that might change things for South Carolina?
I love that question because as I think about what we need in education, we need a team attitude. And on a team, you have to have different positions that have different strengths. And so in running to be the state superintendent of education, I tried to impress upon people that this really is running to be the CEO of a major organization. I mean, we have a state agency with over 1,000 employees, $8 billion that flows through. We're spending over $11 billion all told K-12 education. So I mean, this is a massive investment and stewardship of taxpayer resources, not to mention the lives of these children that we are called to serve. And so what I really hope to be able to bring to this role is clarity in talking about where we are and where we need to go, and then working to align resources to support that strategic vision. I like to joke, there's an old Johnny Cash song, I built it one piece at a time, and he talks about the automobile he built that's kind of a clunker by the end of the song. And you know, in many ways, our education system has evolved over so many years, and there's so many complicated processes and layers and programs and rules and regulations. And so the eye that I bring to all of this is, how can we do what is common sense and what works? What can we roll back and take off of our districts and our teachers that may have made sense 50 years ago that just isn't working for the education system of today or the future? So I really think it's that strategic business approach to this that can make me a valuable player on the team to help support what our teachers are doing on the front lines.
Is some of that red tape?
A lot of it is red tape, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And I know that many of the legislators that I talk to also have a strong passion for supporting our teachers and for seeing education in South Carolina lead the nation. That's my goal. I want to see us be at the front of the pack. And I believe we have the students and the teachers and the parents and the community members to do it. We just have to have clarity of vision and then alignment of resources behind that vision. And that's another thing that I really love about this literacy endeavor, is that this is something that unites all of us. We all know that our children have to be able to read. It doesn't matter whether you are urban, rural, black, white, Republican, Democrat. Literacy is the core skill of education, and this is something that we can all do together.
And in terms of yourself, looking at yourself, walking into this new job, we all have done that in our lives, you know, we're like, what is my biggest challenge? What is your biggest challenge as you take on this brand new role?
I think the biggest challenge for me has just been the incredible level of opportunity that there is, and learning how to focus myself and my time and my priorities, because there's so much pulling you in so many different directions, and always remembering to keep the first things first, focusing on what are we doing to support our teachers so that they can then support student learning and outcomes in the classroom. And so that is the mantra that I tell myself when I walk into that office every morning. And there are 500 things that get thrown across my desk in my email and the meetings, and you know, you feel like you're just constantly shifting gears. Somebody said that doing this job is like jumping into a game of double dutch that has 14 ropes going at the same time, and that feels about right. So just always keeping that strategic priority and focus at the front, I think, is the real challenge of this role.
And you are a Christian conservative taking on this statewide role. What challenges do you face in terms of having sensitivity and inclusion in the world that we live in now, where there are so many communities that have concerns about whether the Christianity would filter into the way you lead?
Yeah, well, I think that, you know, there are a set of civic values and virtues that unite us as Americans. You think about, you know, in the Declaration of Independence, it talks about our Creator endowing us with natural rights. On our money, it says, "In God we trust." You say the Pledge of Allegiance, it's, you know, one nation under God. And so I think that there are civic values and virtues that still unite us as Americans, but especially here in South Carolina. And so while, you know, I certainly am never going to make any apologies for my faith, and really, you know, it drives my passion for education because I believe that every child has God-given potential, that they were created with a special gift that this world was meant to have, and that it is our job in the education community to help them call forth that gift. But I certainly understand that in a pluralistic society, there are many different perspectives, many different views. Not everyone is going to share my views, and that's fine. I think there are still many ways that we can work together.
Thank you very much. Ellen
Yeah,
Weaver,
yes.
our new superintendent. We appreciate your time.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Amy.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was great.
Thank you.